All right, if we can have everyone taking their seats. If you're by the door, if you could call people in, that would be great. We're going to move on to Resolution A in a moment here.
Could we have everybody please take their seats? We've still got a number of items to attend to. For those of you who are seated, if you would like to get out your copy of Resolution A, we're going to be looking at that momentarily. Okay, everybody, welcome back. We are now going to turn to our special resolution, Resolution A. And if you don't have a copy, I'm not sure if there's any more outside, but they were a copy that was handed out to people yesterday. Okay, I'll now pass it over to our clerk.
Resolution A, the subject is C92 resolution, submitted by Deborah Fisher, Region 4 Director, submitted to the AGM clerk on September 22nd, 2023, and will require a majority to pass. Whereas the Métis Nation is an Indigenous people and one of the Aboriginal peoples of Canada within the meaning of Section 35(2) of the Constitution Act 1982, the Métis Nation within British Columbia, which is an integral part of the larger Métis Nation, holds inherent rights to self-government and self-determination, as well as those rights as recognized in the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Métis Nation British Columbia is mandated to represent the Métis Nation within British Columbia, which includes the Métis Nation citizens with respect to their rights, claims, and interests. Through policy development and advocacy, MNBC actively represents our 39 Métis communities in British Columbia and MNBC citizens. MNBC engages charter communities and citizens to address sensitive and critical matters, including but not limited to the Indigenous Self-Government and Child and Family Services Amendment Act, social work oversight, review of child protection responses, youth justice, youth transitions, children and youth with support needs, and the complexities associated with each of these issues. MNBC and the province of British Columbia signed a joint commitment to collaboratively work towards MNBC's authority over child welfare for Métis children and families in British Columbia. On June 12, 2019, Canada, represented by the Assistant Deputy Minister of Indigenous Services Canada, entered into a Memorandum of Understanding with Métis National Council regarding the Canada Métis Nation Child and Family Services Accord, CFS MOU. MNBC is a signatory to the CFS MOU, which states promoting Métis jurisdiction over the design and delivery of child and family programs and services as a primary goal. The federal act representing First Nations, Inuit, and Métis children, youth, and families affirms that the inherent right of self-government recognized and affirmed by Section 35 of the Constitution Act 1982 includes jurisdiction in relation to child and family services, including legislative authority in relation to those services and authority to administer and enforce laws made under that legislative authority, and recognizes numerous rights, opportunities, and responsibilities of Indigenous governing bodies in the provision of child and family services to their citizens. Be it resolved that MNBC is authorized to exercise the Métis Nation within British Columbia's inherent jurisdiction over child and family services, including through the development of a Métis child welfare law related to child and family services, the negotiation of related interim agreements, and or any other necessary or related actions required to advance or exercise that jurisdiction. One quick point that the last sentence of the fourth whereas clause was struck from the version that was submitted to the clerk finally, but it may still show up in the printed version, so we will be going with the version on the screen.
Do I have a mover?
Lauren Peterson, Surrey Delta Métis Association.
I'll second Vince Van Oringen, Region 7.
Lauren, would you like to speak to the motion?
Respectfully, the children are the heart and soul of our nation. If there's anything we can stand up for now, when our children and our jurisdiction over our children and the care of our children is at risk, this is when you stand, this is when you speak. Thank you.
Vince Van Oringen, Region 7. So yeah, this is long overdue. Many of my family and members have been part of the provincial services and child advocacy and gone through the system, and they have not had the best experience. And it is up to us and our nation to make sure that our children continue to get their culture, their knowledge, their heritage, and be given the opportunities that our First Nations partners are given as well. And they should be placed within our nation. So.
We'll move to mic 3.
Hi, Anya McVeigh, Two Rivers Métis. I'd like to put forward a motion to amend simply based on some language alteration. It would read then, MNBC is authorized to exercise the inherent jurisdiction of the Métis Nation within British Columbia over child and family services.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Sorry, it would also include the striking of the second, after British Columbia's, of the Métis Nation of British Columbia over Child and Family Services. So the apostrophe S as well as inherent jurisdiction.
We will need a second for that amendment.
Patrick Harriet, Métis Nation, Greater Victoria. I'll second that.
Any further comments?
Is this on? Tansei, Sasha Hobbs, North Fraser Métis Association. So this is my former college English instructor perspective coming out in moving that clause in front. We are talking about the inherent jurisdiction of our right to our children versus the jurisdiction which would abide within the organization itself. So by moving it, we actually weaken our position in terms of our self-determination, inherent treaty rights. So I would move it. I would keep it as is.
Okay, Patrick.
Patrick Harriet, Métis Nation, Greater Victoria. After hearing that clarification, I am speaking against this, and just wanted to say that. Thank you.
We have a comment from online. Daylene Thomas, go ahead.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Daylene Thomas, Métis Nation, Greater Victoria. I use she, her pronouns. I would
Daylene, thank you for your comments. Currently, it is out of order. We will come back to that. We are dealing with what is on the floor currently. Lisa?
Thank you so much.
I apologize, Lisa. We've got Geraldine Stevens online, and then Lisa. Thank you. Go ahead, Geraldine. Go ahead, Geraldine, you're unmuted. Okay, Lisa, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Lisa Smith, member of Métis Nation, Greater Victoria. I also have a social work degree before became involved in MNBC politics. That was my career path with an Indigenous specialization. I just want to not speak in favor of this amendment for many different reasons. And I thank Ms. Thomas, who has experience in children and family issues as a lawyer. We also have a team of very professional staff at MNBC who have all extensive experience in children and family and legislation. And we do have a lawyer on staff as well with expertise in children and families. This resolution and this declaration is required. Canada has asked us who is authorizing us. And this is about getting Indigenous governing body status for our children so we can bring our children home and where they belong. So I'm speaking against this amendment. I think our staff, legal counsels, and thank you, Ms. Thomas, for your comments as well. I think that a lot of thought and going over it has been put into it, and I'd like to see it stay the way it was presented. So I'm speaking against the amendment. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mike 3.
Hi, Anya McVeigh. I'll note that I do also have an English background, but I will withdraw the motion.
I'm going to ask if there's unanimous consent to withdraw from the Assembly. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. We'll now move back to Geraldine online. Go ahead, Geraldine.
Yes, thank you. Given that the amendment has been withdrawn, I did have names or a list of those speaking both online and in the room for both the amendment and the original resolution. The order I have for the original resolution, I next have Mr. Harriott, followed by Shirley Goulet online, Daleen Thomas online, and Geraldine Stevens online. I know there was Mr. Arnott online and Ms. Hodgson that wished to speak to the amendment. At this time, please raise your hand in the chat or in the Zoom if you're wishing to speak to the resolution back before the floor. But we'll turn to recognize Mr. Harriott.
Tanshe, Patrick Harriott, Métis Nation, Greater Victoria. I'm speaking in favor of this resolution. I'm here as un papa, a father. I'm here as an uncle. It's time we brought our kids home. The best interests of our kids are with our extended families, to hear their culture, their stories, their language, with their communities, with their nation. It's time that the cultural genocide of Métis people in BC ends. Merci.
Thank you. The next speaker we have is Shirley Goulet online. Yes, we can. Yes, go ahead. Yeah. Yes, go ahead. Thank you for those questions. I will recognize CEO Trudeau to try to respond to that.
Thank you, and that is a big question. I will direct the citizen to the Children and Families report on 220, my apologies. So we are acting as an Indigenous governing body in the work that we're doing with children and families. We're working really closely with our service providers to create a framework of how we collectively work on children and families issues. The piece that we keep coming up against in exercising our authority to connect to our families and our children, it's been incredibly challenging. We've had to find workarounds. We've had to wait for families to connect with us to know who our kids are. And a question we constantly are asked either by Canada or the province is, who authorizes you to do this work? And for us, it's so critical that the citizens authorize MNBC to do this work. And it is all of our work, but we need that recognition by our citizens to do this work so that we can bring our children home. So this is a critical part of what we need to do so that we can advocate and lobby strongly for our children to come back home.
Thank you. I next have another online comment, going back to Daleen Thomas. Thank you very much. Mr. Beekers has the wording, and we're going to deal with that in just a second. I just want to address everyone else now that there is a proposed amendment on there, and there is an indication in the chat of a seconder for that. So once we get to that, so I do have these speakers here on the original. Seconded, yeah. Seconder is Patricia Paulson. Online. And so I have your spots in the original line. We are going to be starting a new line on this amendment once again, so please feel free to take a seat if you wish at this point. If you wish to speak to the amendment as it comes up, feel free to come back to the line, but I do have you in my original lineup just so that you're you have that.
Could we have the text of the proposed amendment put on the screen, please? Yes. So what this amendment will do, and I'm going to assume intent on the behalf of the mover here, is that we would strike the entire "be it resolved." If you could scroll up to the original "be it resolved." So the "be it resolved" A would be stricken and it would be replaced by the text underneath it, and I'll read it out. So so the proposed amendment is to strike that and replace it with the following statement, which would be it resolved that MNBC declares inherent jurisdiction over child and family services in Métis and BC. MNBC will develop Métis child welfare laws and will provide Métis child and family services, including negotiating agreements and any other instrument that recognizes its jurisdiction. This declaration was authorized by the citizens of MNBC.
Yes, thank you. So this motion is on the floor. Daleen, I believe you've kind of explained it, so I'm going to turn to, and please raise your hand if you wish to speak further to it, but I'm going to turn to our seconder, Patricia Paulson, to speak to the amendment. Thank you, Ms. Paulson. I next have June Graham.
June Graham, Alberni, Clayoquot. I'm not sure if it fits in at this time, so you let me know. When I was reading the original one that was up, it was confusing and I changed it up. And so I'm not sure when I would say that.
Okay, so yes, so I'll put you on the list on the original if you're looking at changing the original, assuming it's not amended, because we have the amendments before the floor, but I'll add your name to the list that we had for those speakers.
Right, okay, it's amendment.
So as of right now, we're looking at the amendment, the replacement wording as proposed by Daleen Thomas. The next speaker I have is Deborah Fisher online. Hello, we can hear you. Go ahead. Thank you very much for those words. I next have Patrick Harriet at number 3, or did you? Thank you very much. I next have our speaker here at number 1, President Suarez.
Hi, I'm Kelly Sears with Wachia Métis. I'm just wondering because we have some sort of we go to family services, and we meet with them once in a while, and they are part of helping children and their parents or their grandparents or whatever get custody. And I'm wondering if they're aware of all this happening. I know they get some MNBC funding. So, and they also get funding from another BC party. So I'm just wondering if they are aware of this and if they're in agreement with it and if it's going to cause any problem anywhere down the road.
Thank you. I might invite our CEO to respond to those questions.
So thank you for the question. And we have been updating the children and family services, Métis Family Services providers across the province since we started with our judicial review around IGB and Indigenous governing body status and around our requirement to have authorization to exercise jurisdiction. So they are updated. Our executive director of children and families has worked very closely with them, and they are kept up to date on the progress we are making. But as I mentioned earlier, we're working on a framework of how we work together as a nation with the child and family services providers, and this is critical to ensure that they are recognized and receive the capacity and supports that they need to do their good work.
Thank you. And next have another speaker from online, Colleen Hodgson. So you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Let's try again. Sorry, Colleen, we're not, your volume's not coming across. We can try, what we'll do is we'll go to the next speaker and we'll try to facilitate a way that we can get Colleen's voice. The next speaker we have is Leader McDonnell at microphone number 3.
Leader or leader? I thought you said Peter. I was going to, okay. Betty Ann McTonnell, and I am the leader for Nicola Valley District Métis. And I'm speaking only to this amendment because I do have comments on the entire. As a 30-year caregiver, and I've been in many parts of this, I have no degrees. I don't have a humongous education with lots of big words. But what I can say is I do have life experience. And to me, reading this the way it's written right now is much clearer. I just wanted to say that I find that clearer language that anyone can understand, saying our children, our way. And that's a conference coming up, by the way, if you want to go.
Thank you very much. We'll see if we can try linking in Colleen Hodgson with some additional, we'll try to see if we can unmute her and if that'll work. Otherwise, hopefully the call. Go ahead, Colleen. Okay, Colleen, I think we've got someone calling you directly. We're going to try to put the phone up to the mic or up to the microphone. So just a moment, I'll let you know. All right, just give us a second. All right, go ahead. Let's try this.
We're going to try. Okay, go ahead, Colleen.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can. If you can. I'm not sure what we're
I'm
going
not going to do that. Let me just go to another speaker and I'll work on it.
No, what you could do is mute your, or maybe we can mute you online and then you just try just through the phone.
My computer is muted.
Okay, try again.
Go ahead.
Okay, how's that? No, it's okay. Just go to another speaker.
Okay.
All right, thanks. We'll move on and we'll keep trying to come back to you. I've got Lisa Shepherd at microphone number 4.
Thank you, Lisa Shepherd, Golden Ears Métis Society. I speak in favor of this amendment, and I would really love for us to be able to move on to the voting on the actual resolution. I actually came up here to call question, but I understand there's people behind me. But I speak very much in favor of this. It's clear, it's concise, it's strong, and it makes no apologies and asks no permissions. It's what we need.
Thank you, and I appreciate your original purpose for coming up for that. Sorry, just a second. Okay, I do have, what we'll do is we'll continue with the few speakers that we have already on the list, and then at that point we will go to the vote on the amendment. So next is June Graham at number 3.
Good afternoon, June Graham, Alberni Claquet, President. I agree with this amendment. What I would like to tweak, if Delene was keen with it, would be that the citizens declare inherent jurisdiction over Child and Family Services of Métis and BC. So to empower it to be us, the people. So I'm not sure how folks feel about that. But just that one little tweak about it being the citizens declare inherent, and we've in fact directed MNBC to provide those. It has to be MNBC citizens because that's what we are.
So, Ms. Graham, where would you like the wording changed in the text that's on the screen, if you could suggest a starting point?
The second word, citizens.
MNBC's citizens declares inherent jurisdiction over Child and Family Services?
Yes. Declare? Is it declare or authorizes?
Declare.
I'm not the wordsmith here. I'm surrounded by them, but I'm not one of them.
It would be declares, but it would be MNBC citizens declares inherent jurisdiction over child. It's okay. So if that meets what you're proposing.
And would we have to say authorizes MNBC to?
So do we have a seconder for the change proposed by, and I recognize the speaker already there at number 3.
Fleuret Borsboom, Alberni Claquot Métis Society. I will second that.
Okay, if I can just have a moment just so I can make sure that we're keeping everyone in track and online, both online and here in person. Given that it's a minor change, we do have some people that rose to speak to this. June, June, do you wish to speak to this further, the reasons or anything to that? Or can we maybe move to our seconder or just?
Is this, oh, it's working now, okay. As long as it says there that we've authorized MNBC to do that. I think it does in the last line.
The last line covers that portion, yes. Florette, did you wish to say anything to the addition that June proposed that you seconded?
Thank you. There was one more change that Patrick was suggesting, and that is?
Oh, just that the citizens authorize MNBC.
That the citizens authorize MNBC at the very end. Oh, pardon me. And the authorize MNBC to exercise jurisdiction on our behalf. Did you get that?
Sorry, could you repeat that, please? And that was
Okay.
on the last sentence?
That's the last sentence. End of the first sentence. MNBC citizens declares inherent jurisdiction over the child and family services of Métis in BC and authorize MNBC to exercise jurisdiction on our behalf.
And authorize MNBC to, was it exercise jurisdiction?
Yes,
Jurisdiction on our behalf?
yes,
Okay.
pertaining to the citizens.
And one final suggestion, just reading through all of it, because we are essentially putting the authorization in the first sentence, I would think that the last second sentence saying this declaration was authorized by citizens of MNBC, it becomes redundant. Because we're essentially just moving it, so if we could have a strike through on that, and I think that reflects the changes that you're proposing, so.
Thank you. And so, Florette, did you wish to make any comments on that, or is that, we're good?
No, I just wanted to say that I am totally in agreement with this, and I think it's really important, and I am so grateful for MNBC for putting this forward. I am a grandmother, and my grandchild was taken from me. He was put back into the system in harm's way, and I had to fight him. I had to fight the ministry to get him back. There was no one to support me, and with this, we have MNBC to support us to get our children so that our children are not put in harm's way. So please, let us pass this. It is so vitally important for our children, their future. Thank you, Marcy.
Thank you. Just for everyone, so we know the lineup I have our speaker here at number 1 next, followed by Colleen Hodgson, Lisa Shepard, Steve Arnott online, and Daleen Thomas online. So first to number 1, speaker at number 1 here.
Hi there, Lisa Alexis, Region 2. Just looking for clarification by us voting on this amendment. As citizens, are we not authorizing MNBC the authorization for us to speak? So I'm just wondering if it's necessary to have the citizens line in there because we're giving authorization to MNBC by making this vote.
Yes, because given that only citizens can vote at the AGM, so a decision of the AGM is a decision of the citizens present. That being said, I think, and I'm going to interpret from what I heard from June and Florette, the intention is to make it more clear. For example, a lot of people, government, whatever, don't necessarily know who votes at an AGM. This, I think they're trying to make it explicitly clear that it's the MNBC citizens making this declaration for those that might not know that a vote at an AGM has that effect. But that would be, that's my interpretation from.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I next have Colleen Hodgson online. Third time's a charm. Yes, we can. Thank you. Chair recognizes Lisa Shepherd at microphone 4.
Thank you, Lisa Shepherd, Golden Ears Métis Society. I'm going to speak against this amendment. And the reason being is I feel that it actually weakens our positions. When children are being removed from families, we as citizens individuals don't have a strong voice against that. We need our nation to declare. It's our nation that needs to speak up on behalf of families and to ensure that our children stay in the communities. So it actually weakens our position to put MNBC citizens. I feel it reads stronger as MNBC declares because they are speaking on our behalf as citizens already. We don't get heard as individuals, as citizens in situations like this. We need it to state that our nation is speaking, is declaring on our behalf without having to say. So I speak against this and I'd like to go back to the original wording of this.
Thank you. Next online, Steve Arnett. Thank you very much. I next have another online speaker, Daleen Thomas, followed by Ms. McVeigh at microphone 3.
So I'm just
Yes, I'm just going to recognize our clerk before we proceed to another speaker.
So currently on the floor, we have an amendment to strike the original "be it resolved" with the text that is on the screen. Then we have a further amendment to add and change the highlighted text and also strike some other text, and that's our secondary amendment. We cannot, in my opinion, there are no tertiary amendments, so we have to deal with the secondary amendment, and then we'd have to deal with the secondary amendment. Another secondary amendment could be applied to that, but we can't amend an amendment of an amendment. You can only amend an amendment.
Yes, thank you. And that's going to be my ruling on this. We don't have friendly amendments and I appreciate Ms. Thomas, looking to our original mover, but once it's been moved and seconded, it's a motion or that's held by the assembly and not necessarily, any kind of amendments requires the will of the assembly. And so what I'm going to suggest, I've got the remaining speakers on the amendment to the amendment. We'll finish those speakers, we'll vote, and then again, at that point, if there is some discussion to change, as Mr. Beaker was saying, then we can entertain it at that time. So at this point, I have our speaker at microphone number 3, Ms. McVeigh, and then I've got two further speakers that have already been on the list.
Hi, Anya McVeigh, Two Rivers Métis. Respectfully, that's not accurate, that it cannot be further amended so long as the original mover wishes to make the further amendment.
Chair, recognize our clerk.
Section 12, number 91 of Robert's Rules of Order, 12th edition, states regardless of whether or not the maker of the main motion accepts the amendment, it must be open to debate and voted on formally unless adopted by unanimous consent and is handled under the same rules as amendments generally. So you can only have an amendment and a secondary amendment. There are no friendly amendments.
What we could do is, if we were to hypothetically put that wording in and with unanimous consent, then could do that in that way. And I've heard a point of order, and I'm going to recognize our speaker here at number 2 with regards to the point of order.
Sorry, I understand we're using Robert's rules in regards to this. Just point of order. Did we not accept standing rules? So Robert's rules don't really apply, do they? Just point of order.
Yes, we've traditionally used Robert's rules and where it doesn't conflict with the other aspects in the standing rules. And so there's nothing in the Constitution, the Societies Act, or the bylaws that would say, for example, in this case, we could have an amendment of an amendment of an amendment. So it's just a way in which we assist in trying to organize. Otherwise, I mean, we're already going down rabbit holes, which, I mean, it's great because the intention is wonderful, but then there might be no end. And so we're going to rely on Robert's rules when it assists the assembly. And I do see June, and as the original mover, I will recognize you at this point. If there is an agreement and a specific wording, then, and I think that was the wording from Ms. Thomas, then we can look for unanimous consent. If there is not unanimous consent, then we'll have to proceed the full regular way. Go ahead, June.
June Graham, Alberni Clayoquot, President. I would like clarification from Colette. Is she here? She went out. I wanted clarification of what she had said earlier when she spoke. I may have heard it wrong, but it sounded like she was needing something from us to proceed forward with the process with the government that she's doing with our children and families. So maybe Lisa or someone else can answer to that. So I want us to understand more why we're doing this, so it doesn't have to be so confusing. I heard Colette say something, and I just want clarification on why it is that this is necessary today for us to do this in order for MNBC to move into a position of authority to look after our children and bring them home. So if you could enlighten all of us on that a little bit more, I would really appreciate it.
Yes, and just before I recognize our staff member to deal with that, and just, it might be, essentially, they need a declaration from the citizens so that they can take it with them to Canada to assert that jurisdiction. And so, oh, we do have Colette, but she may not have heard the question. So I will recognize our staff member here, Sasha, if you wish to speak to that. And I note that Colleen Hodgson also spoke to the reasons why this resolution is being forwarded and what's required.
So as I mentioned in my earlier comments, when we are working on coordination agreements and having recognition, getting the capacity that we need to do this work, we are constantly asked the question, who authorizes you to act on behalf of Métis children in BC? This helps clarify and gives MNBC a really strong statement by the citizens that says our citizens have authorized MNBC to do this work. We need this statement. We need it, and we need it coming from the citizens. And so that is why we need this.
Did that address your question, June?
Yes, that addresses my question. Thank you very much, Colette. And so this is, I think, the wording that my friend Deline and the words that I came forward with are satisfactory to what Colette is saying is needed today. So that's what I wanted clarification on. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm hearing question. I know we've been discussing this. I do have two further speakers. They have been patient, and I will recognize those two speakers, and then we will vote on the amendment as before us. Our next speaker, we've got Jaden at microphone number 2, and then I've got Shirley Goulet online.
Hello. Hi, Jaden, Region 6 Youth Representative. I think that this statement is super important, and I'm glad that we are discussing it. I'm not an English teacher, and I understand that we cannot make, what did you say, polite amendments or something? Friendly amendments, but it is slightly making me distraught that we have citizens, plural, and then declares. So I would just like to point that out if we can pass this amendment, hopefully, and then maybe consider changing that as well once we're finished here. Thank you.
It's one of those difficulties when you've got a pluralized group, so it's a single group of a plural, and so it's one of those things, sometimes it can kind of be with S or without, but we can, for grammatical clarity, if that's the will, we can change.
Sasha.
Yeah. Yeah, and as I said, it is a group, but it's standing for a singular, so that it would be minus the S in most cases. So we can certainly have that as a grammatical change, not necessarily an amendment to that. So we have one final speaker, Shirley Goulet online. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same for the comments we had previously. If you wish to save those, please do so. You are our last speaker on this amendment to the amendment. We will vote on the amendment, and then we're back to the amended resolution, which is essentially the replacement. So to make that clear, and then certainly if you wish to, someone else wishes to add specific wording, we can do that at that time. So at this time, we are going to be voting on the amendment to the amendment. So it would be the wording once we get it back up. And perhaps what I'm going to do is have Mr. Beaker read it so that everyone's clear on what we're voting. Now, this is not to pass it as a whole. That would still be another step. This is just to change the wording as had originally been put forward by Ms. Thomas. And taking the S off.
So I'm going to read out the amendment in front of us and clarify the parts where the secondary amendment applies. So MNBC citizens is being added in. Declare inherent jurisdiction over child and family services of Métis and BC and authorize MNBC to exercise jurisdiction on our behalf. The blue text authorize MNBC to exercise jurisdiction on our behalf is also part of the secondary amendment. MNBC will develop Métis child welfare laws and will provide Métis child and family services, including negotiating agreements and any other instrument that recognizes this jurisdiction. And then this declaration was authorized by the citizens of MNBC is to be struck as part of the secondary amendment.
Thank you. So once we're advised that voting is open, which I understand that'll take maybe a minute. If you are in favor of those changes in the wording, you're going to vote in favor with either 1 or A. If you're opposed to those changes, 2 or B. And if you wish to abstain, it'll be 3 and C. So once we receive word that voting is open, I'll get you all to vote. I'll turn it over to our clerk.
Is voting open? It is? Okay, please cast your votes now.
It went.
10 seconds. 10 seconds. If you have not voted, please vote now. Thank you. Voting is now closed. Okay, we have the final vote tally. In favor, 125, 11 opposed, 3 abstentions.
Thank you. So we are to the wording of the amended amendment. We had no one else on our list, but I will, from the previous, before that last amendment was brought, but I do note, given some of the comments that we had in the last portion of the amendment to the amendment, we are back, and I will recognize and see if there's anyone wishing to speak, whether online or in person, and I do see someone in person at microphone number 3.
Hi, Anya McVeigh, Two Rivers. Can we see the now current amendment on the screen first?
Certainly. Minus the S.
Thank you. I would propose, having previously spoken with June about this, I would propose that it be amended to state MNBC and its citizens.
If we could get that text added and put in red, please. But you need to know what you're seconding.
Yeah, we want to make sure that whoever's thinking about seconding sees it in front of them so that they're comfortable with it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Go ahead.
Linda Van Waringen from Fort St. John. Yeah, because we needed that clarification, everybody was wondering whether it was MNBC or its citizens. I think putting these 2 words in here just clarifies everything. It breaks it down so the government recognizes that not only does MNBC recognize it, but its citizens is also declaring this statement. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Just a moment. We've got a couple hands online first, and then we'll recognize in the room. Just a second. First, Deb Fisher online.
Yes, Deb Fisher, Region 4 Director.
Thank you. I next had Shirley Goulet online. Thank you. I'm going to stop you there, and I appreciate the wording, and I'm going to ask you to keep it in mind. We do have a resolution or amendment, a motion before us. That would be another motion, unless we have unanimous consent. So perhaps if we can add in blue. Or another color, yeah. As per Section 35 of the Constitution Act, I would assume we would have to clarify. Constitution Act 1982. Yeah. No, the name of the name of the. Yeah, it's the name of the act is actually Constitution Act, 1982, and so we would. And we would remove the Canadian because that's the name. It's the only legislation with that name is Canadian. As per Section 35 of the Constitution Act 1982. And sorry, repeat the last portion.
Okay.
All right. So at this time, for anyone online. Just a moment. If you could lower your hand. Is there any objection to adding this by unanimous consent? I see objection. So please, we can remove that. This will be for another step if we get there. Thank you. The next speaker I have is Jamie Keith at number 4.
It's a stylistic suggestion only, but I would put
S on the end of instruments and strike the S off of recognize. Is that yours?
Sorry, so if we could delete the blue wording first, but maybe save it on the clipboard or something in case it comes up again. So I'm just, yeah, so we can just have a moment. Given it's not a substantive change, it's stylistic, just if we can have in blue, an S on at the end of instrument in the second to last line. And a strike through of the S on recognize, or recognizes.
Yes, and I've got one more stylistic suggestion, but I'm going to let her say it because she can word it better.
Unfortunately, we're in the situation where we have to add in and Métis citizens, because right now it's reading as if MNBC is authorizing MNBC. So MNBC and its citizens declare inherent jurisdiction over child and family services of Métis in BC, and MNBC citizens authorize MNBC to exercise jurisdiction on our behalf.
Sorry, just a moment.
Yeah, or the citizens, yeah.
All right, I'm going to look for if we have unanimous consent. Is there any objection to the stylistic changes in blue? Any online? I do, thank you. So that we will have to pass at a different amendment. So if we could remove those changes in blue.
Could I just ask for a clarification?
Certainly.
From the previous speaker, from Lisa, as to whether she wanted it to read Métis citizens or the citizens?
We're going to remove those portions in blue. What else did I have on my? The next speaker I had is President Smith in the front here.
Thank you so much, Lisa Dawn Smith, member of Métis Nation, Greater Victoria. I'm not going to be in agreement with this amendment to the amendment, because basically what it's saying right now is that MNBC and its citizens are authorizing MNBC. So basically it's MNBC authorizing itself. What we need to work with the Government of Canada, and we're referring to Section 92 regarding child welfare under the Constitution of Canada, but also Indigenous governing body status, so I want to make that clear. But the wording here now is saying that MNBC is authorizing itself as well, but we need the authorization from our citizens. Thank you.
Next, recognize Colleen Hodgson online. I can, yes. Thank you. Next recognize Mr. Gladue. Yes?
Hello. Dean Gladue, Region 3, Two Rivers Métis. I just want to say this. My mom and dad are sitting over there. And their first language is Cree. And I'm trying to convey what's going on here. And I'm telling them, yeah, it's just, I said, this is very important that we get this right the first time. But she said something that really hit me. She says, we're starting to act like Moniaos here, and we're nitpicking every little thing. Just bring my damn kids home. So I'm saying to you, yes, we can make all those changes that are going there, but and I said, it's the grassroots where the government will listen to us, not me as a politician. I go there and say, my people, our people, my mom, my dad, who've had 4 of their grandkids taken from the system, want their kids home. We speak on their behalf. The ones that have gone, our ancestors. MNBC does not have the power. The power is in the citizens. So I like what Lisa said. We have to use that word first, because the perception is we're telling you what to do. So, let's bring our kids home. Thanks.
Thank you. The next speaker I have is online, Daleen Thomas. Go ahead. Sorry, Daleen, you're saying the citizens, because it is now added, or the indication there, at least in the first part, I'm just perhaps unclear, and I did hear someone in the audience not clear.
Prince Rupert, Prince George, I just want to say our children need to have some anchor point that they can come to for the resolution of these matters, and that's how important this is, and thank you so much.
Thank you. I think I'm not going to add in MNBC since that we already tried that by way of unanimous consent, and we didn't have that. So we are trying to deal with the amendment that we have on the floor, and we certainly had the amendment on before that we can deal with. I appreciate and the wisdom in the words of Dean's parents in suggesting how that we proceed. I think from what I'm hearing, there's no disagreement in the sentiment that we're going through. Unfortunately, the process. And I hear question, and I have people wishing to rise to speak to it. What I would like to do is get to a vote on the amendment. If there's a change, we can do that, but we're having a lot of discussion, and a lot of the comments are essentially in support of the idea, and it's just trying to get it across the line. I have 2 people that with their hand or in the queue. I have Patrick Harriet and Ms. McVeigh for a second time. I'm going to leave it at that, and I see you coming up, President Smith, but thank you. Essentially, that's what I'm doing, but we are, again, respecting those that are already in the lineup. So, Mr. Harriet.
Patrick Harriet, Métis Nation, Greater Victoria. So this is the Citizens Assembly. This is about the citizens' collective rights being authorized to MNBC. We have to remove "and its." It's MNBC citizens that are making the declaration. It's MNBC citizens that are authorizing the collective rights. And it's our inherent rights. So Section 35, UNDRIP, whatever, that's not what this is about. This is about us authorizing and exercising our collective inherent rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, recognize our speaker at microphone number 3.
With respect, it's not MNBC citizens who are making this declaration, but the citizens of MNBC, which has some difference to it. And in that view, and having listened to previous speakers and having had certain elements clarified for me as to how MNBC functions on behalf of her citizenship with this regard, I would like to offer the suggestion that we remove my previous amendment of "and its citizens" and alter it to read "the citizens of MNBC declare."
What I'm going to do, given that it is before the floor, what we're going to do is we're going to vote on this amendment as it is to include the word "and its." Sorry, just a moment. Thank you. So we'll try this by unanimous consent. If we can have it, the citizens of MNBC, and is that? I just want to make sure I've caught your
Yes,
wording.
the citizens of MNBC declare.
So yes, so replacing MNBC and its citizens with the citizens of MNBC. Of MNBC. They're perfect. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, and that would be struck through. I'm going to look for unanimous consent. Is there any objection to the proposed change to this amendment? Any online, please use the raise hand function. Looks like we have consensus. Thank you. So we are back to the original amendment. As proposed by Daly, as amended, sorry. And we'll just make sure we delete that. So we're back to the amendment as amended, and we are going to be voting on this. If I can just have a moment. Thank you. Given this is an amendment to the resolution, I'm going to look for unanimous consent. Is there anyone who objects to the wording of the amendment that's on the screen? And for those online, perhaps I'll have Mr. Beaker read it.
So the amendment as amended is the citizens of MNBC declare inherent jurisdiction over child and family services of Métis and BC and authorize MNBC to exercise jurisdiction on our behalf. MNBC will develop Métis child welfare laws and will provide Métis child and family services, including negotiating agreements and any other instrument that recognizes this jurisdiction.
Thank you. So at this time, I'll look for unanimous consent. If you object, please raise your hand, whether in person here or online. All right, we have unanimous consent for the amendment. We will now vote on the resolution as amended. So now please take out your voting devices. I'm not going to have Mr. Beaker reread it because we've just done it, and that's what we'll be voting on, whether in favor of the amended resolution. I did see someone, did you?
Can I talk before we vote on, is that okay? Yeah. Wake, Tenskia Well, Bonnie Lepine, Antoine Itzgasson. My name is Bonnie Lepine Antoine. I work in education. I run the Francophone School Board. And I want you guys to realize what that represents. Right now we have 73% of Indigenous children in care, who represent 7% of children in BC. So it's really, really high. And I'm like what Dean said, ramenons nos enfants chez nous. C'est très important. But what I don't want to see, and what I've seen in the past, is internally us, with this resolution, allowing MNBC having jurisdiction and control over what happens in our agency, who work really hard, tirelessly. And that you come and take our projects, and you come and take what we're trying to create. And that's what I'm worried about, is internally what's going to happen, saying, well, we have right to control what happens around the province now. So yes, government to government, it's very, very important that you have our voice at the table and that you are fighting for our rights. But for our people who are working in childcare today, I'm talking about Limachifo Pemissawak, here in my region, who worked tirelessly, and a project was supposed to go up and may go up. And they worked really hard. You cannot come and take our projects away from us. You cannot tell us what to do either. So you have to be very careful with how internally we use this, that we don't use lateral violence internally and take credit for somebody else's work that works day and night. That's all I wanted to say. Miigwech, merci.
Thank you. Now, I do have two people coming up, and I'm hoping we can get to actually voting on the resolution and passing or whatnot. I have heard question, but I have speakers that. I have heard question called. We have to, and given the amount of time we have, in order to continue, given we've been spent more than 30 minutes, we have to have a vote on question. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Beaker to explain what a vote in favor. Just a moment. I recognize Mr. Beaker.
So, thank you. So previous question is basically, if you are in favor of that, we are going to end debate and vote on the resolution. If you're opposed to that, we are going to continue debate. The reason why we can't necessarily use unanimous consent for that is there are people at the microphones and they clearly would wish to continue debating. That being said, the Assembly does decide as a whole when they are ready to vote on that, and we have heard question many times. So I have advised the chair that we need to vote on questions so that people who do want to end debate have an ability to exercise their right to do that should they wish to do so.
Thank you.
Vote in favor is to end debate and vote immediately. A vote opposed is to continue debating.
Thank you. So if you could get your voting devices out, it'll be prepared in a moment. But again, if you are in favor of ending debate, you're going to vote in favor, 1 or A. If you wish to oppose and continue with debate, then it'll be 2 or B. Or if you wish to abstain, that's 3 or C. So if this motion passes, then debate will end, and we will be on to the vote on Resolution A as amended. So this vote will be for ending debate.
Okay, the vote is live, so please cast your vote now. Ten more seconds. Please cast your vote now if you have not done so. Voting is now closed. Okay, we have the final results displayed. We would require 94 in favor to end debate, 127 in favor, 14 opposed, and 1 abstention.
So we are going to move on to the vote on Resolution A as amended. So keep your voting cards out. Once we receive word from our team that the vote's open, remember this is in favor of the Resolution A as it's been amended. And we've read it out a couple times, and we'll hopefully get it back on the screen. But it was the amended resolution. Thank you. And the resolution as amended and as previously read out is on the screen.
So resolution as amended, the citizens of MNBC declare inherent jurisdiction over Child and Family Services of Métis and BC and authorize MNBC to exercise jurisdiction on our behalf. MNBC will develop MNBC will develop Métis child welfare laws and will provide Métis child and family services, including negotiating agreements and any other instrument that recognizes this jurisdiction.
So once we receive word that voting is live,
voting is now live. Okay, now voting is live. Ten seconds. Please cast your vote if you are not done so. Voting is now closed. We have the final results tallied. That was 137 in favor, 6 opposed, and 1 abstention.
Well, it was very good to see all the smiling faces from this perspective up here. Just want to address the assembly. We do have 3 more items of business to do. So if it's the will of the assembly after a short break, we will continue with that. So should we do Unanimous? Oh.
So we'll definitely have a short break. However, given that we're already at the end of our time, people have to leave, various other reasons. We will need the will of the assembly whether to continue, and of course that would be contingent on us having quorum. So what I'd like at this time, and perhaps what, show of hands?
Yes,
So what I'll look for is a show of hands a unanimous consent whether to continue. If there is objection, then we'll go to an actual vote on whether to continue. Is there any objection to continuing after a short break with the remaining items that we have? Notwithstanding, I understand some people will have to leave and may not be able to continue. Is there any objection to continuing after a short 15-minute break? Anything online? All right, so we'll return after 15 minutes.
Okay, if we could please have everybody take their seats so we can get started promptly. Thank you. Okay, if we could have everybody take their seats so we can establish quorum. Okay, we do have quorum. I'm going to ask everybody just to quickly settle. The last resolution was full of emotion, and I know it was very hard on some of our citizens here who have joined us today. So in order to just bring us back and center us, I've asked Elder Barbara Rhodes to start us off in a good way, just to bring some prayers and blessing to our gathering today.
Jose, thank you for listening to my words. This last words that were spoken were very raw and very real, but we all came to them in a good way. Creator, we thank you for the voices that we've heard so far. We know that we are speaking through our ancestors to regain what was lost. It is a long and hard fight, and many people will have many words to say, and many roadblocks will be put in our way to stop us from our journey. But please remember, our main objective is to regain what we had and carry on the goodness, the Métis goodness that's in our hearts, so our children may thrive in the days to come and their children in the future forward. Thank you for all your kind words and your guidance. In this we thank Marcy. Hi, hi.
Next up is Resolution 8, and you will find that on page 82 in your book, and I'll pass it over to our clerk, John.
Resolution 8, subject is changes to the Veterans Act. The legislation affected is the Veterans Act. This is submitted by the MNGA via Minister of Veterans to the AGM clerk on March 5th, 2023, and will require a majority to adopt. Whereas the MVBC committee has undergone some changes, and the MVBC Act needs to be updated to reflect these changes. The relationship of the MVBC to the MNBC and the qualifications for membership and associate membership in MVBC should be stated clearly and succinctly, and the role of the Minister of Veterans to the MVBC needs to be clearly defined and understandable. Be it resolved that the Veterans Act be amended as follows. Remove the second instance of in section 2.1 so that it shall read, the purpose of this act is to define the role and position of the Métis Veterans British Columbia, the MVBC, within the MNBC. Strike section 3.2 and insert the following in its place. The spouses and children of MVBC members who wish to join MVBC may apply for associate membership of MVBC and may be accepted as an associate member, the associate member or associate members as the case may be, of MVBC. The MVBC committee will assess and accept or deny applications for associate membership. Strike section 3.3 and insert the following in its place. The MVBC committee may, at their sole discretion, revoke a person's associate membership. Insert new section 3.5 as follows. A member or associate member may resign their membership in MVBC through a written request submitted to the MVBC committee. Insert the acronym VEC following the words veterans in the title of Article 4, so that the new title will be Article 4, Métis Veterans BC Committee. Strike existing sections 4.1 to 4.6 and insert the following new sections 4.1 to 4.12 in their place. 4.1, Métis Veterans BC Committee, the MVBC Committee, shall be constituted of a Métis Veteran Chairperson, 7 Métis Veteran Representatives, the regional representatives, a woman veteran representative, and a service officer, all being MVBC members. The MVBC membership shall elect from them among themselves the chairperson, women's representative, and service officer. The MVBC regional representatives shall be appointed in consultation with the appropriate MNBC Regional Governance Council. The term of office for all MVBC committee members shall be no more than 4 years. Elections and appointments shall be held at an MVBC general meeting in the year on which the term for those MVBC committee members shall expire. The MNBC Minister of Veterans will notify the relevant regional director no less than 90 days before their MVBC regional representative term will expire, and an appointment must be made by the Regional Governance Council if a suitable candidate can be found. No member may serve for more than 2 consecutive terms as chairperson, women's representative, or service officer without the approval of the MNBC Minister of Veterans. At least one member of the MVBC committee shall be a serving or retired member of the RCMP if a suitable candidate can be found. A treasurer and a membership clerk will be appointed by the MVBC committee for the MVBC committee regional representatives, who together with the chairperson, women's representative, and service officer shall collectively act and be known as the executive committee. The MVBC committee shall be responsible for the following duties and functions on behalf of the Métis Veterans British Columbia. Maintenance of policy and procedures relating to the conduct and mandate of the Métis Veterans and Associate Members. Maintenance of a list of all Métis Veterans and Associate Members in British Columbia as defined by Article 3. Prepare an annual report for presentation at the MNBC Annual General Meeting and other reports as requested by the MNBC Minister of Veterans. Serve as Gabriel Dumont Scouts as may be requested by MNBC from time to time. Coordinate and organize flag processions and flag placement as requested or appropriate from time to time, and other duties as required. Advocate to enhance the status of Métis veterans. Provide service and support to Métis veterans in British Columbia. Represent themselves as Métis veterans at municipal, provincial, federal, commemorative, or other events. Subject to available funding, the MVBC committee shall meet at least twice per year at a location chosen by the MVBC committee and may be held in conjunction with the MNBC Annual General Meeting or an MNBC Métis Nation Governing Assembly. The MVBC General Meeting will generally be held in conjunction with the MNBC Annual General Meeting. Meetings of the MVBC committee shall be called by the chairperson. In the event that the chairperson is unwilling or unable to call a meeting, 3 MVBC committee members may call a meeting. No less than 7 days notice of an MVBC committee meeting will be provided to all MVBC committee members. An MVBC member, while conducting their duties of the MVBC, shall not be subject to any civil action, lawsuit, or prosecution as a result of anything done or not done in relation of their duties. Strike the current title of Article 5 of the Veterans Act and insert the following in its place. Article 5, MNBC Minister of Veterans. Strike existing sections 5.1 and 5.2 of the Veterans Act and insert new sections 5.1 to 5.3 in their place. 5.1, the MNBC Minister of Veterans shall be an MNBC board member. The MNBC Minister of Veterans shall provide provincial and federal representation on behalf of the MVBC and will be accountable to the MVBC committee. In the event the Minister of Veterans is unable to attend, the Minister may request that an alternate MNBC board member and the chairperson of the MVBC attend in their place. For the purpose of official business, the voice of the MVBC shall be brought to the MNBC Métis National Council federal and provincial governments, organizations, and associations through the minister in consultation with the MVBC committee.
Do I have a mover?
Thank you so much, Lisa Smith, Minister of Veterans. I'm very honored to move this on behalf of our MVBC. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Do I have a seconder?
Shay, Brooklyn Chalmers, Region 1 Youth Rep, and I will second this.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you all. As you know, our veterans work very hard on our behalf. They've not only did our flag party duty, but they do our Dumont Scouts duty. I hold our veterans in very high esteem. Our Veterans Act was first put forward to MNBC in 2010, and I was honored to be the Minister of Veterans then. Our veterans work very hard. As we know, all our legislation, all our acts, are living documents that need updating, so they've worked very hard on these amendments to the Veterans Act. I know our chairperson, Dave Armin, is here, and he may want to say a few words after our seconder speaks. Thank you.
Merci, Lisa. I believe that MyBC trusts and respects that our veterans know what is best for our veterans, and so we will support them however we can, including this resolution. Thank you.
I'm now going to invite Dave Arnott forward to address the Assembly. Thank you.
Tansei, Dave Armit, and I'm a member of Mikisew and the chair for the Métis Veterans BC. So basically what we've done is looked at our act, and although we amended it about 3 years ago, we realized we needed to be a little more inclusive and also take some redundancy out. And at the point when we, this floor's squeaking on me. And at the point where we had done it last time, we didn't have the expertise of John Beaker, and he sat with us for a good full day, and through several email transactions, we came up with the draft that you see before you. I just wanted to make comments on a few things, so if there are questions in your minds, I can answer them, and this may be something that you don't have to ask the question for. So most of it is housekeeping. Some of the things that did arise out of this, and I'm not sure if you read the previous Métis Veterans Act, but it stated that an associate member is family members. They shall join MNBC, and that's a pretty strong word. The person should have the choice as to whether or not they want to join. So that's changed in there in the verbiage. And as well, it avoids some disappointment. We had a situation where an individual did not have their citizenship yet, and part of the requirement is that to be a MVBC member, veteran member, you have to have MNBC citizenship first. And I've worked closely with citizenship over the past 10 years in acknowledging who is and who isn't a veteran. And I did have an applicant come through that had not cleared through citizenship and wanted to become an associate member because they wanted to come to a meeting to have a voice at the veterans table. And that wasn't viable because the associate members don't have voting rights or input into what the veterans do. They're there more as the associate side. So we've been working very closely with citizenship to develop a portion out of the hub for Veterans Portal, and that kind of led us to that where the person was not a citizen yet, so they couldn't be a member of MVBC until after that portion. There was also some redundancy within the text that we had, so we needed to clean it up, and we thank John for that, all the hard work he did for us. It was missing things like the terms in office and the sequential terms for people in those positions, as you'd heard in the reading. And also we worked on the Ministry of Veterans Duties. And that was about it. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than welcome to answer.
Go ahead, speaker at mic 3.
Hi, Anya McVeigh, Two Rivers Métis. Could you clarify, the role of the RCMP as members? Because this weekend it was explained to me at your own table that in order to be considered a veteran for MNBC, you had to go through basic training.
Okay, so the criteria that we use for being a veteran is the Veterans Affairs definition, which is you have completed basic training and are honorably released from the Canadian Armed Forces. This is the most recent one. Veterans Affairs does cover RCMP because they are a paramilitary organization, so they do get supported by Veterans Affairs, and that's where we bring them into the fold. So they have been for a number of years. It's just been kind of written out of the documentation, and we want to honor that and continue to have them in. So they can be a retired member of the RCMP, and we have several in the audience now, and they can still be serving members, and we still have some that are serving within our veterans portfolio.
Okay, to follow that, as much as I appreciate the service provided by such individuals, there's also, to my mind, and I know to others who I've spoken with previously, memories of tension with the RCMP within the Métis community. So I do wonder at that inclusion specifically.
So I say again that they are covered by Veterans Affairs, and that's the scope that we use, the lens that we look through to bring people into the Métis veterans of British Columbia.
Any further questions or discussion?
I'd like to call question.
So we haven't had 30 minutes yet on this, so we will need unanimous consent to proceed that way. If there's anyone wishing to object and extend debate, please raise your hand at this time. That goes for online as well. Otherwise, we will move to question and the vote on the resolution as presented.
Thanks. Okay, given there's no objections, we will proceed with a vote. We will let you know when voting is open. Just a reminder, A, in favor, B, opposed, C, abstain. Voting is now open. Oh, no, take that back. Voting is now open.
Ten seconds. If you have not voted, please vote now. Thank you. Voting is now closed. We have the final results tabulated. 101 in favor, 1 opposed, 1 abstention.
Next up in your book, Resolution 9 on page 8. Oh. Recognize the speaker at mic 3, Patrick.
Patrick Harriet, Métis Nation of Greater Victoria. I move to adjourn.
Okay, we need a second to Patrick's motion.
We have a second online.
Oh, we have a second online. Oh, do you have any? Sorry? Daleen Thomas has seconded online. So we will take this to a vote.
So just to clarify, we're going to vote on the motion to adjourn. Basically, if you want to quit now, vote yes. If you want to continue with the last two resolutions, vote no. And it's a majority vote. Yes means you want to quit now. No means you want to continue.
Voting is open. So A is in favor, B is opposed, C is abstain.
Ten seconds. 10 seconds. If you have not voted, please vote now. Thank you. Voting is now closed. We have the final results. 31 in favor, 65 opposed, 3 abstentions.
Okay, we are on to resolution 9, and that is on page 85 in your book, and I'll hand it over to the clerk.
Resolution 9, clarification of voting for MNGA members. This will affect the MNGA Act. Excuse me. This was submitted by the MNGA via the MNBC Board of Directors to the AGM clerk on March 5th, 2023, and will require a majority vote. Whereas, a principle in any deliberative assembly is that each member is entitled to 1 vote, and while community presidents may also hold a second post as a regional representative, there is a mechanism in the MNGA Act for the vice president to attend MNGA meetings if the president is unable to do so. Be it resolved that the following changes be made to the MNGA Act. Insert the following as Article 3.1.1. 3.1.1, a person shall hold 1 member position at MNGA meetings. If the person holds more than 1 role that is part of the membership of the MNGA as set out in 3.1 above, they must inform the clerk of the role they will be fulfilling. And insert the following as Article 4.2.1A. Each member of the MNGA is entitled to 1 vote per motion at meetings.
Do I have a mover? Oh, okay, Sean, 2.
Sean Davern, I'll move this.
Seconder?
Anya McVeigh, Two Rivers Métis, second.
Hello, there we go. Sean Davern, Provincial Youth Chair. I think that, this is already just known, but this is really just putting it into our MNGA Act to make sure that if something happens, we are safe. This is preventative opposed to reactive. I think this is keeping us safe and keeping our MNGA Act strong. So that's why I'm speaking in favor of it and moving it.
Mark DeBoard, President of Two Rivers.
Sorry, we'll have our seconder speak first.
Oh, sorry.
Just to follow what Sean said, I also support the motion based on these same minutes.
Please go ahead.
Mark DeBoer, President of Two Rivers. I view this as kind of like a make-work project that we're looking at right here because there is currently not a single situation within the MNGA where someone can wear two hats. So we're basically making work for ourselves when we don't need to. And this resolution should be postponed until there actually is a situation where this could exist. And so I'd like to move for postponement.
We need a seconder for that motion, please.
Caitlin Bird, I second that.
If I may just speak very briefly to this, because I understand the sentiment that this resolution would not actually apply to any members of the MNGA currently. There have been considerations about adding more members to the MNGA previously, and I would believe that they are going to come in the future. If a resolution like this does not accompany a future resolution to expand the MNGA, because of the lack of clarity in the MNGA Act, we would be in a murky situation should somebody hold multiple positions around this right there. So it is, in a way, it is future-proofing the MNGA Act in anticipation of this. But I do respect the fact that it would not apply to any MNGA members right now.
Go ahead, Mike 3.
Myself or the mover of this amendment? Yes, no?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Anya McVeigh again. Yeah, I suppose I'm just wanting to reiterate what has just previously been said, and that future-proofing is a very necessary element, I believe. And yes, while this may seem at this particular moment, given that it is not a consequence we are dealing with in this present, having to come up against it in any future situation where suddenly we may be met with somebody who has two voting options and may wish to exercise both, there is nothing to prevent them at the moment from doing so.
Go ahead, Joy.
Joy Bremner, leader of Mid-Island Métis Nation. And I firmly believe that this is really a precautionary thing. We are looking forward rather than having to jump back and try and take care of something, as John has suggested, with should new positions become available, and then this might become an issue. This is simply, a housekeeping matter to ensure that we are prepared and able to make decisions going forward should others come on to the MNGA. Thank you.
Dave, Mike 4. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, hi, David Howard, Seminar Métis. I support this motion to postpone. I appreciate the merits of quote-unquote future-proofing. That being said, we're in the present now, and if we want to address situations that are reflected directly with the intent of this motion here now, we should look at the realities of our RGC, where this is partly where this motion came about. There are members in the room right now who hold two positions within the elected positions within the RGC, women's rep, youth rep, and presidents, and we're not addressing that. So it's a little bit of a contradiction to want to future-proof but not address what's actually happened now under the same intent of this resolution. So either we put an amendment to address this reality within the RGC, or we move forward as is with the future-proofing, which sounds nice, or we postpone. I support the postponement at this time. I would be open to an amendment and do more work to address the problem we have right now, though. But I support this postponement. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mike 3.
And I think that's Mark DeBoer, President Two Rivers, is we've got enough on our plate that we need to solve our current problems. To kind of be making up future issues that may or may not occur in the future and trying to get ahead of them, we've got enough that we need to do today, and that's kind of why I think that we need to just stop thinking about things that may or may not even occur ever.
Susie?
I speak against postponing this. I am for this motion. We are trying to be preventive, not reactive.
Mike 3.
Jan Ovens, Cowichan Valley Métis. I don't see that there's any work involved at the moment. We just put this resolution on. And if I'm building a house, I want to make sure I have a roof.
Mike 4.
Ron Caron with the Vernon District Métis. I think postponing this is just creating problems later. Let's just vote for this and, you know what, stop. Why are we disputing it? It solves a problem that maybe will occur later, but it stops it from occurring.
Hello, Jaden Rogers, Region 6 Youth Representative. I just wanted to say that I don't see any issue with passing this. I can't see how this could bite us in the butt anyway. And even if you do believe that it is a redundancy, there's no way that it can work the other way and be any problem to put forward into our Constitution. Therefore, I would say that I do not support postponing this.
Could I call question, please? Region 5 Director.
Yes, and so looking at, there's nothing online, we can vote on the motion to postpone. So as we've done previously, I believe it was yesterday, but if you are in favor of postponing and ending debate, and I think John referred to this as the kill motion essentially yesterday, but essentially it'll end debate, it'll be done with, and we'll move on. If you're opposed to postponing it, then we'll continue with the resolution, and of course C for abstaining. Once we receive word that we're ready to go, I'm seeing a thumbs up. We can please enter your votes if you're in favor of postponing, if you're opposing that, or wish to abstain.
Ten seconds if you have not voted yet. Thank you. Voting is now closed. Final results are now ready. I misspelled indefinitely, but 6 in favor, 89 opposed, 0 abstentions.
Okay, we're back to Resolution 9, and we'll recognize Angel and then Dave.
Angel Robinson, pronouns they, them, Métis Nation, Greater Victoria. I just have a question first. Actually, just a question. Just so I can make a more informed decision. If there was a situation where an individual was representing 2 different bodies and they choose not to vote on behalf of one body, how would that potentially impact the voices of the people that they represent but chose not to vote for? And maybe I'm misunderstanding completely, but just curious.
Well, thank you for the question, and I'll just offer a couple of comments. Number one is that currently under the MNGA Act, which is comprised of board of directors and charter community presidents, the MNGA Act allows for a charter community vice president to attend in the place of the president. There is no alternate delegate for MNBC board members. In the resolutions that were proposed to add more members to the MNGA, as they were the regional youth and women's representatives, there were no provisions provided for an alternate for those regional representatives. They are directly elected representatives. You could create legislation that would provide an alternate for that. So because the MNGA Act currently only allows an alternate for a charter community representative, if we were to take an example of somebody who is a charter community president but is also a regional MWBC representative, it would be most likely that that person would attend as their MWBC representative and allow their vice president to attend for their community. So that would be how it would work. I would think that people would have the sense of that we can have an alternate delegate for the one seat that I have, and I will take the one where I am the directly elected representative. The second point is that whether or not somebody is available in the assembly, they always have the right to abstain or not vote. And there are many valid reasons why somebody can abstain, but presence or non-presence at the MNGA doesn't necessarily mean that they will always represent the voices. They will vote accordingly. I hope that clarifies things for you.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
As one of those people that holds 2 hats, I would like to call question.
Yep, I just want to make sure we're in 30 minutes. Is there any objection to question? Any online? And I'll make sure I'll wait 10 seconds. I know just to make sure we've got, if there's any hands. All right, I see no objection. That goes by unanimous consent, so we will move to the vote on resolution number 9 as presented. When the voting is ready, they'll let us know. It is resolution 9 as originally presented in the book and online.
I believe voting is open. Okay, please cast your votes now. Uh, 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Okay, thank you. Voting is now closed. Okay, we have the final results. 91 in favor, 2 opposed, 1 abstention.
Thank you. We're going to keep this truck on moving. Our last resolution, number 10. I'm going to turn it over to our clerk to read it out, and then we'll be ready for a mover and seconder. Mr. Clerk?
Resolution 10, subject MNGA Act housekeeping amendments, legislation effective as the MNGA Act, submitted by the MNGA via the MNBC Board of Directors to the AGM clerk on March 5th, 2023, and will require a majority vote for adoption. Whereas legislative provisions require vigilant review to ensure that they are correctly stated, and in the event an error or inconsistency is discovered, the error must be rectified as a housekeeping matter. Be it resolved that the following changes be made to the MNGA Act. In definition 2.17, add an S to the word order so that the phrase being defined is orders of the day. Subject to approval of A above, replace all instances of order of the day with orders of the day so that the phrase matches definition 2.17 throughout the Act. Strike the word general in definition 2.10 and insert governing in its place so that the phrase being defined is governing assembly. Strike definition 2.11 and renumber all subsequent definitions accordingly. Subject to approval of C above, strike the word general from Article 3.2 and insert the word governing in its place so that 3.2 will read, in the event a community president is unable to attend a governing assembly, the community's vice president may represent that community.
Thank you very much. I'll look for a mover and a seconder, and I'll recognize the speaker at microphone number 2.
Patrick Harriet, Métis Nation, Greater Victoria. I so move.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? I recognize the speaker at number 1.
Jeff Crozier, Rocky Mountain Métis Association. I'll second that.
Thank you very much. I'll open it back to our mover, Mr. Harriet, if you wish to speak to the resolution.
Just to say housekeeping. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'll recognize our seconder, Mr. Crozier.
Housekeeping.
Thank you very much. I'll open it up to the floor if anyone wishing to speak to resolution number 10.
Question.
I heard question. I will just wait if we have any hands. I don't see any hands popping up. At this point, I will look for unanimous consent on the issue of question. If you wish to continue debate and discussion on this resolution, please raise your hand. Mert, I'm looking at you. Any online? I'll give it 10 seconds. Sorry. Seeing no objection, that issue of question by unanimous consent, we will now vote on resolution 10, the housekeeping resolution. When voting is available, please let me know. And while we're waiting for that, please note that when we are finished today, please remember to return your voting device. Voting is now open. If you are in favor of resolution number 10, that'd be 1 or A. If you are opposed, 2 or B, or wish to abstain, please mark that with a C or 3 on your devices.
Ten seconds. If you have not voted, please do so now. Voting is now closed. The final voting results. 90 in favor, no opposition, no abstentions.
Just before I entertain a motion to adjourn, I would like to invite, or just want to have our Elder Fern coming up to give our closing prayer. So if Fern could come in. And Lisa, yes? Sorry, Fern, just before, we're going to have closing remarks, but please just have a seat and we'll be ready for you in a moment.
Okay, Tensei, wasn't that incredible? A unanimous vote, right at the end. So, hi, everybody. I want to really thank our veterans and for performing the Dumont Scout duties and keeping us all safe. And we did receive a wonderful email from Nikki Fraser, who did the Welcome to the Traditional Territory. And we don't often receive thank you emails from First Nations, so it was lovely to receive an email. She thanked us, and she was very impressed, and she said she learned a lot. So I wanted to make sure we all knew that. I'm just going to keep this really brief. We're happy that Cassidy could attend, and it's so wonderful, and I'm always so excited when the democracy of our nation is in play. And good job, everybody, and good job to all our citizens. I'm going to go right to the very end, and I want to make sure we thank all of our staff. There was so much hard work put into it. And thank you to everybody who stayed right to the end. We really appreciate it. So I'm going to just get rid of these, and everybody have a safe travel home.
So before you all leave, I am going to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And do I have a seconder?
Second.
Second. Yeah, that'll be closing us up. Is there any objection? I'm looking for unanimous consent. Pixie?
Pixie's out of order.
All right. Seeing no objection, we are adjourned, and I'll invite our elder to come up with a closing prayer. Thank you so much, everybody. And I want to thank my co-chair as well.
Hello, everybody. Very nice you could come today and help out for the whole, how long it's been. It's been a long journey. However, I have a little different prayer for you today, and I hope it's all right with you. I'll start. It's Great Father of the universe and the earth, Great Mother of the universe and the earth, we thank you, great creators, for this earthen planet we call home. We graciously accept your gift of presence here. We feel your spirit within. We are representatives of you here as we together have celebrated a combined vision of strength and diversity. Great Spirit, we thank you for this harvest time as we ready ourselves for the winter months. Sustain us as we enjoy your promising new adventures. Great Mother of our spirit, great Father of our spirit, refresh our bodies and refresh our minds as we travel on our way. O great spirits, bless us. We thank you. Merci. Hi, hi. Amen. Thank you.